It's a tremendous day for the Middle East. And you can see that this is probably the greatest assemblage of countries in terms of wealth and power maybe ever assembled. And it's just an honor to be a part of it. We're going to be signing a document that's going to spell out a lot of rules and regulations and lots of other things. And it's very comprehensive. But we've already signed documents in the Middle East and having to do with Israel and Hamas and just about everything else. And it's really working out incredibly well. The hostages, as you know, were let go on time, on schedule. The very sad situation of bodies, which was always a sad situation, and they're being sought out, and they're working with many different people, finding some were brought in and some were not. And they're working out to find out where those bodies are. It's hard to believe that you even have to say something like that. It's so sad. It's so sad. But what's not sad is that we have finally, after, I guess they say 3,000 years, I've heard from 3,000 years to 500 years, but whatever it is, it's a lot. But this was the one, this was the granddaddy of them all. And frankly, I thought this was probably going to be the toughest, and maybe in many ways it was, but we had a lot of good talent.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What is up, everybody? It is Scagz here, and thank you for listening to the Two Doomed Men podcast. I am going to be rolling solo tonight for the second time in the history of the Two Doomed Men podcast. I kind of mentioned this a little bit about 2 weeks ago or so was the last time we recorded a political episode. And like I was saying, the Capitan is busy lately at work. I've been really busy at work the past couple of weeks, so a little bit of hiatus for the Two Doomed Men podcast. And I thought it was time to get back in the groove. A lot of news going on in the world, in the Middle East. As you saw at the opening of this, President Trump announcing his Middle East peace deal, 2025. Peace in the Middle East. Seems like the conflict in Gaza between Hamas and Israel might possibly be coming to an end. I say might. I add the asterisk there just because I think history has proven that, these things, old beefs die hard. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. I think we're going to talk a lot about that tonight, mainly about that tonight. That is a major news story of the day. It's been a major news story of the past 2 years, right? About 2 years or so now. A lot coming out of it. We've talked a lot about it the past 2 years, so I thought it was appropriate and filling. So Captain will be back for future episodes at some point. Big Luch and I will be doing a Monday Night Raw live stream next Monday. A lot of interesting stuff coming out of the wrestling world. We got a new bourbon, Penelope bourbon. I don't think it's new, but it is a new one for us that we'll be reviewing this weekend while we're camping. So keep an eye out for that coming next week. And all right, I think we'll kind of just jump right into it. This is going to be my second time, like I said before, doing a solo episode. So I don't know, a bit awkward for me. I don't like just talking to myself in the camera, so I got a lot of stuff that I'll bounce off of here for this episode. A lot of videos and news article, trying to keep you guys updated on what's going on in the world. So the ceasefire deal is in effect. I mean, outright fighting seems to have stopped between Hamas and Israel. My general thoughts on this whole thing I've been very skeptical of Trump the past couple months, as everybody who's been watching the show knows. But it does kind of seem like Trump finally really did put pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel to get this war, this genocide, if you want to call it that, going on in Gaza to finally stop the hostages. Thank goodness, with all the criticism the past couple of years, I did have sympathy for the families of all the hostages that were taken by Hamas in Israel. So, thank God now that they're all gone, that they're all been returned to to their families in Israel. And where it kind of sits now, I have some up to date news from antiwar.com. This is as of today by Dave DeCamp. And it says that Israel violates the ceasefire deal by having aid entering Gaza over the number of bodies released by Hamas. Israel was aware that not all of the bodies would be released right away when it signed the ceasefire deal, as some remains are still under the rubble. It says Israel has informed the UN that will only allow 300 aid trucks to enter Gaza per day, keep the Rafah crossing closed, and block virtually all gas and fuel shipments into Gaza until Hamas releases all of the remains of Israeli captives, which still need to be located under the rubble. Under the Gaza ceasefire deal, Israel agreed to allow 600 aid trucks to enter Gaza per day, the minimum the UN says is needed to bring relief to the civilian population that has been starving under the Israeli siege. So far, Hamas has released 4 out of the 28 bodies of hostages that remain in Gaza and is set to release another 4 tonight. Israel is accusing Hamas of violating the ceasefire deal, but it was aware that it would take time to recover the remains before the ceasefire deal was signed. During Gaza negotiations, Israel understood it would take time to recover all bodies of deceased captives. A specific mechanism for recovering the bodies was agreed. Drop Site News reporter Jeremy Scahill, who has reported extensively on the ceasefire negotiations, wrote on X, "Now Israel is pretending that didn't happen so it can violate the deal and cut the agreed aid shipments in half." Old beefs die hard, like I said. I don't know. It seems kind of reasonable, I guess you could say, that it would be difficult to locate all of the remains of hostages who died over the past 2 years. I don't know if you guys have seen satellite photos of Gaza over the past few months, let alone the past couple years. The place has been essentially torn down to rubble everywhere. It looks like the whole place has been demolished. You have to think Hamas was moving hostages from place to place, depending on wherever the battle was, taking place. Israel demolishing buildings, dropping bunker busters, things like that. My guess is that a lot of the hostages died in the fighting in the war as a result of, malnutrition, mistreatment, and of course, probably buildings falling down on their heads. And it would be probably difficult to know exactly where they all were over the course of time. When a hostage dies or when a captive of yours dies, or you're under attack, I think you're probably going to just prioritize yourself and not exactly dragging the remains of somebody out with you. So it seems somewhat reasonable to me that it's going to take some time to find all the remains in that mess. And I mean, could it be that it's that they're it's some sort of bad faith thing that Hamas is doing? Sure, it could. It could also be a bad faith thing that Israel's doing, not understanding that it is going to take time. And what is exactly we're talking about here? I mean, it's important, of course, for families to get the remains of their loved ones back, but all the living hostages have been returned. So, I mean, at what point does one side finally agree to extend some grace? It's only been a few days, and you're already looking to have the amount of aid that is going into Gaza as agreed upon in the deal, because the other side can't find the remains of hostages who are already deceased. So I don't know. It's kind of just more of the same. I think something interesting that came out of Trump's summit, I guess you want to call it, the other day, where he met with all these other leaders from around the world, especially these leaders from the Arab nations and Muslim nations in the Middle East. I thought, notably, who was missing was leaders of Hamas and the leaders of Israel. Trump went earlier in the day, which I got a bunch of videos to play. Earlier in the day, he went to Israel and he addressed the Knesset, but they didn't actually attend the peace summit, nor did Hamas. So you had a peace summit, and you didn't have the two main actors in the conflict that you're having a peace summit over. You didn't actually have them participating in the peace summit. I viewed that as kind of odd. Knock on wood, hopefully not a sign of things to come. At the same time, it could be that maybe it wasn't the best moment for them to be there because old beefs die hard and people are still upset with each other and mad at each other. And maybe having them there would have caused a scene, would have caused an incident, would have, kind of sunk or put a buzzkill on the prospects of what seems like Trump and the rest of the Middle East and the world really putting pressure on both parties here to try and wind down this insane war that's been going on in Gaza the past 2 years, which I think at this point pretty resoundingly unpopular amongst most people in the world. So, like I said before, Trump was in Israel before the meeting yesterday, and it would be the meeting Monday by the time this airs. Again, I won't be doing this live. This is going to be a pre-recorded episode, so I can, give myself some time to make mistakes and fuck up, and then edit them out afterwards if need be. So there was a lot of interesting stuff that came out of this. I thought one of the most interesting things was Trump asking for a pardon, or kind of recommending that the Israeli president give Benjamin Netanyahu a pardon. Let's take a look.
Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. By the way, that was not in the speech, as you probably know. But I happen to like this gentleman right over here, and it just seems to make so much sense. Whether we like it or not, this has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. This has been one of the greatest wartime presidents. And cigars and champagne, who the hell cares about that?
So I think the cigars and champagne reference there is, in reference to some trouble that Netanyahu, I guess, was in regarding bribery and charges like that. I know he's been kind of, behind the eight ball in Israel regarding some of that. Although, the war has gotten in the way of kind of all those proceedings. There was a lot of protests and things like that before October 7th or any of this happened. So I think that's what that's in reference to.
All right, enough controversy for the day, right? Actually, I don't think it's very controversial. So, I see so popular. You are a very popular man. You know why? Because you know how to win.
Okay. You are a very popular man because you know how to win. None of this really lines up with reality. Not only in my opinion, but I think in the opinion of the Israeli public, let alone the American public and the European public. You have to wonder if this has something to do with the pressure it seems like Trump finally did put on Netanyahu to try and wind down the war here. I mean, Trump did say there that it wasn't part of his original speech, adding in that Netanyahu should get this pardon. I don't know. I've told people before, the worst people in the world always seem to kind of avoid accountability and avoid justice. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe Trump cut a deal with Netanyahu like, listen, this shit has to finally end. You have to wind down the war. And if you do so and you follow the plan, if you commit to the plan that I am putting forward, I will lobby or I will put pressure on your own government or the rest of the mechanisms within your own government to give you a pardon in regard to those corruption bribery charges that you faced earlier. And perhaps let's go a little bit further. I don't know how it's going to wind out, wind up here in Israel in the next couple of years if the ceasefire holds and the war is over. I don't know. Will they finally take a look at what exactly happened on October 7th and who's responsible for the failure and security throughout the entire Israeli security system? You can't just put aside the craziest conspiracy theories, that some people might come up about, including us. We've talked about this before. But no matter what, it was a failure, right? On Netanyahu's watch, this attack occurred and over 1,000 people were killed, captured, etc. We can, if you want to go and look into exactly what happened, you can do so, but put all that aside. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. It was a massive failure on the part of the people in charge. So maybe that has something to do with it as well. Netanyahu knows that now that the war is winding down, people are going to start asking those questions, and people are going to look to hold whoever allowed October 7th to happen accountable. Now, I also want to share a clip that I posted on our Two Dim Men page the other day, which I thought was really interesting because governments and politicians, they always are going to take the side of, you're really popular, everything we did is right, and everything our detractors said is wrong. But when you get a chance to view what the actual people, how they respond to some of these names, I think there's a lot to be said there. This is a video of Steve Witkoff. I think this was on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday, perhaps, or maybe even Friday. He was at he was in, I think, Tel Aviv at a gathering at it was called their hostage center. Him, Jared Kushner, who also had a part in this deal to some extent, were kind of addressing the crowd that was there. And, they mentioned Netanyahu, and the crowd, it seems, not happy. They mentioned Trump, and the crowd does seem happy. So let's play it real quick.
To Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh. Okay. To Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Steve Witkoff, who gives a really good one-on-one interview, and he seems really well-spoken. And from what I understand, he is a good, welcoming, good negotiator type person. He seems very uncomfortable here addressing a crowd of people. I haven't really seen him specifically in this sort of role or doing this sort of thing, giving a stump speech in front of a bunch of people. He seems very nervous, stuttering his words. Maybe he wasn't expecting the crowd to boo Netanyahu here. I think this is all around one of those moments where a lot is revealed or by things that are unsaid.
Okay, let me just finish my thought. I was in the trenches, guys. Let me just finish my thought. I was in the trenches with the Prime Minister. Believe me, he was a very important part here.
And you see, he's trying to sell the crowd on how important Netanyahu was in this whole thing. Ties back into my thought before. Perhaps this is part of the negotiation, part of the agreement that Trump made with Netanyahu, rehabilitating his image, getting him that pardon, something along those lines.
The Prime Minister and his staff, Ron Dermer included, have both Okay. Okay. Have both sacrificed so much for this country and devoted their lives to the service of Israel. Their dedication to the history and destiny of this nation stands out tonight. They've given everything, their time, their energy, and their hearts, to building a safer, stronger future for the Jewish people. Their commitment to this country has never wavered, and it never will. We thank you. The President thanks you. Thank you.
I think that's going to switch over to Kushner, who's going to mention Trump, and we'll see the crowd's reaction.
And to President Donald J. Trump.
Never mind.
Thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. Like I said, I thought that was worth playing. That was worth taking a look at for a bunch of reasons. Obviously, the little Netanyahu bit there. I also thought it was kind of important to show people. I know it's been easy the past couple of years. Like this definitely hasn't been one of our criticisms, I'd say this definitely has not been the right wing criticism of Israel, but it definitely has been a left wing criticism of Israel, that like all the people there are bad, support genocide, don't want to make peace, etc. And I never said that. I never thought that that was true. I think people behave like human beings, and when an attack happens to them, they lash out in response, the same way I've said in the past that the thing that motivates men in the Middle East to strap bombs to them and go kill Americans on the other side of the planet or Israelis is not like blue jeans and apple pie. It's acts of violence against them. So I think that this kind of bears that out, or bores that out, that, the Israeli public probably was not happy, or at least some of them. I've seen people saying that, oh, the people at that square are paid, are paid to be there or something like that. Come on, man. I don't know. Are all of them paid to be there? This, anything that doesn't fit the narrative is always a paid protest. It was the announcement of the hostages coming back at the hostage square. It seems like a scenario where a lot of people would come out to celebrate the hostages being returned organically. I do think, though, that whatever it is that Wickoff and them are doing there, it really did sound like a bit of just kind of propaganda of stroking Benjamin Netanyahu's ego and trying to kind of rehabilitate his image, which you could see is definitely under fire in Israel. At least a lot of the public doesn't like him. Now, why would they not like him? I think this has been talked about a lot the past couple of years. I think the captain and I have talked about it a couple times on a couple episodes. We've covered this stuff. It did not appear that Benjamin Netanyahu's goal throughout this onslaught in Gaza was actually to return the hostages. Seems like his prioritization was to just, persecute the war, carry out the war in the way he saw fit, and it be a expansion of, or pandering to, the Greater Israel Project. That these guys, the right wing of Israel, these Smotrich, Ben-Gvir types that are in his coalition that he's formed, is something that they want to do. They want to expand Jewish settlements into Gaza, the West Bank. And it seems like that was really Netanyahu's goal, or what he was trying to do with the war here, to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians out of Gaza. And that was the primary driving force or goal thing that they were working to, not getting the hostages out. Why do I say that? Well, because the way that they carried out the war, like we talked about before, the sort of just carpet bombing, leveling of all the infrastructure in Gaza, knowing that the hostages are in some of these buildings, in some of these facilities. Dave Smith has made the great analogy in the past on his shows. I don't know. Imagine if someone in Brooklyn, comes to your house, takes your kids hostage, brings them back to a hospital, and the police decide in response to this that they're going to blow up the entire hospital, and they kill all the kids. Well, it seems like that's kind of the way that Netanyahu and his, the IDF and the government carried out the war in Gaza, and a lot of people, both Palestinians and obviously Israeli hostages, died because of that. So, of course, if it was my kids who got taken hostage and taken into Gaza, and I saw the video coming back out of there of carpet bomb style bunker busters being dropped, apartment towers collapsing, knowing that there is a chance that my children could be in one of these things, I'd be pretty fucking pissed off too, especially given the fact that my prime minister didn't seem to be really making any effort to get them out of there. Every time he was asked about it or, made public comments about it, it's we're going to, destroy Hamas and, et cetera. It seemed like the goal was always that. It wasn't really until Trump became president that he specifically did, and I will give him credit for this, hostages really started getting released when Trump came into the picture. All the American hostages got released a while ago now at this point, and now you have all of the remaining hostages have been released now with Trump's plan here, where it seems like he has finally put pressure on there. So I don't think the Israeli public is this giant evil monolith that some left-wing people would make you out to seem to believe. Are there a lot of really just, insane types in the Israeli Likud party and the right wing there? Yeah, I think so. And but are there some of them in in the Israeli populace? Yeah, of course there are. There are in every population around the world, right? That's not everybody. I do see everybody as individuals, just like there are insane people in Hamas who carried out the attack on October 7th, insane radicals. There are insane radicals on both sides, and there are innocent people on both sides. I'd say a lot of people in Gaza were innocent people who were treated like they were part of Hamas or like they were savages by some of those very same people in Israel who were considering themselves to be the civilized type. I'm talking about the Netanyahu, that right-wing crazy type. So, but that's not everybody in Israel. So I thought that was a real white pill throughout this whole moment to see people really just, voice their disgust towards their prime minister, who, in my opinion, deserves to be behind bars for the rest of his life, given a fair trial and all that stuff for not just what happened on October 7th, but what he did, what he was responsible for the past 2 years that occurred in Gaza. The starvation, the amount of people dead, civilians, kids. Like I said before, just the way that he prosecuted this war was really disgusting. And I don't think at this point any of those ridiculous talking points about human shields or anything like that, anyone is falling for that anymore. Okay, so let's switch gears. I have another clip from Trump's address to the Knesset. Again, the Knesset is like the Israeli version of Congress, the Capitol building where their Congress meets. So Trump is addressing them, and as part of his speech, he goes on a rant about Miriam Adelson. Now, if you remember, some point after the election, I was talking about on one of our episodes after the fact that Miriam Adelson donated over $100 million or about $100 million to Donald Trump's campaign. And I cited and read this article. Sorry, I'm blanking on who wrote it now at the time. That kind of the string attached, as I guess you could say, with $100 million. I don't think you donate $100 million to a political candidate without a string being attached to that, or asking for something, or trying to pressure something you want. Now, the string attached seems to have been that she wanted President Trump to support Israel annexing the West Bank, which they would call Judea and Samaria, the eastern portion of what used to be formerly Palestine, where the Palestinians live. Big controversy over the course of many years now of Israeli settlements encroaching on that territory that the Palestinians live in. I'd say probably in addition to actual Israeli settlement within Gaza itself. So I think the story was that that's what that $100 million was lobbying for. I'm sure amongst just general support for Israel. So that being said, we could break this down a little bit more after. Trump brings her up in this speech to the Knesset. She was there. And this is one of those just classic Trump moments that he's just seems off the cuff and says some wild, crazy shit. Let's play it and we'll talk a little bit more after.
Broken promises from many other American presidents, you know that. They kept promising. I never understood it until I got there. There was a lot of pressure put on these presidents. It was put on me too, but I didn't yield to the pressure. But every president for decades said, we're going to do it. The difference is I kept my promise and officially recognized the capital of Israel and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem. Isn't that right, Miriam? Look at Miriam. She's back there. Stand up, Miriam. Stand up. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. They'd call me. He'd call me. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I could think of. Look at her sitting there so innocently. She's got $60 billion in the bank. $60 billion. And I think she's saying no more. And she loves Israel, but she loves it, and they would come in, and her husband was a very aggressive man, but I loved him. He was a very aggressive, very supportive of me. And he'd call up, can I come over and see you? I say, Sheldon, I'm the president of the United States. It doesn't work that way. He'd come in, but they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights, which is probably one of the greatest things to ever happen to Israel. Miriam, stand up, please. She really is. I mean, she loves this country. She loves this country. Her and her husband are so incredible. We miss him so dearly. But I actually asked her, I'm going to get her in trouble with this, but I actually asked her once, I said, so Miriam, I know you love Israel. What do you love more, the United States or Israel? She refused to answer. That might mean Israel, I must tell you. We love you. Thank you, darling, for being here. That's a great honor. Great honor. She's a wonderful woman.
All right. So obviously Trump is being complimentary of her. But man, I think that's probably one of the most interesting moments that's come out of the past couple days with this whole thing. There's a lot of routes we could take or angles we could take at this. I think it's kind of fucking awkward, to be honest. You know, he even said it right before that last part. You know, I think I'm going to get her in trouble for this, but I asked her if she likes Israel more or loves Israel more than the United States, and she didn't answer. Boy, I mean, way to put the lady on the spot. It's also just, I view it as this kind of bizarre. If you are going to approach this from the point of view that Trump is just kind of thanking her for her contributions to Israel, it's an odd thing to thank someone for having done. Like, I can understand if someone worked at a soup kitchen and was a volunteer firefighter and helped the homeless. You know, I can understand you giving them public props for doing so. But let's not get it twisted here. Miriam and Sheldon Adelson, what they did was contribute large sums of money to American politicians, namely Donald Trump, in the tune of $100 million uniquely for him, with the stated intent of him and his government supporting Israel and backing one of the things she was interested in, which was Israeli expansion and annexation of the West Bank. It's an odd thing to kind of celebrate a person for publicly like that. And just to preface my next point, let's keep in mind that a couple weeks ago, Donald Trump was asked about Israeli annexation of the West Bank, and he pretty forcefully came out against it. He said it's enough, it's not going to happen, that he's not going to allow it to happen, and that Israel, in a sense, will not be allowed to annex the West Bank with him as president. So that flies directly in the face of the thing that Miriam Adelson really was lobbying him to do, or gave him that $100 million to try and influence him to do when he was running for president. Now, I've been doing this long enough, and I've been friends with a lot of crazy ass people on the internet long enough that I'd gather to say the QAnon folk types are going to say, you see, this is some 4D chess type shit. This is Donald Trump exposing some of these people who are not America first and are Israel first, putting them on the spot for the entire world to see. Maybe that is true. I don't know. This was such a bizarre, awkward thing to have said in the Israeli Knesset, the Israeli Congress, at the moment where this is a major worldwide televised event. It almost makes me want to kind of believe there might be some credence to that. Do I know? If there is, no, I do not. I kind of wish I had the captain or Garrett here to chime in on that bit, because it just seems that awkward. Now, then again, Trump, he just tends to go off the cuff and say random crazy shit from time to time. And perhaps his ego or his just sense of, he's just full of himself, and self-confidence is so high that he don't give a fuck about however that might come off as negative. He is just, this woman gave me a shit ton of money. This woman has tried to influence the American government to support Israel in a way which no one else has. And I'm here addressing the Israeli Congress, and I'm going to give her props for that, because that will play well amongst her constituency, or that's not the right word, but her in group over here in Israel. Maybe that's what's going on. But man, I don't know. Maybe drop in the comments. Let me know what you thought about that one. I thought all around that was just a bizarre moment. All right. I'm going to move on to the next thing out of this whole event the past couple of days. And that's kind of recent news a couple hours ago. Part of this this deal that Trump has, kind of imposed on all sides here. When I read it, one of the points was that Hamas has to disarm and that they'd be given amnesty. Amnesty in a sense they'd be allowed to leave Gaza, and they won't be persecuted or held accountable for October 7th or anything like that. I thought that overall, maybe I comment a little bit on the deal overall. There are a lot of points to it. It seems like, the original plan that Trump came out with has seen some negotiating going back and forth between Hamas, where they kind of outright agreed at first, but that they wanted to discuss a couple points. I did think that one of the, I guess you could say, poison pills in this plan is that it never actually guarantees the Palestinian sovereignty, a state, equal rights within Israeli society, or anything like that. Knowing a little bit about the history, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but knowing a little bit about the history of all the previous deals over all the years, there always tends to be some sort of poison pill in these deals that cause them to fall apart later, and then is cited at some point as, you see, this is the reason why we can never make deals with these people, because they always renege on their promises. So I think that's obviously a key component to whatever it is the Palestinians would want: autonomy, a state, equal rights, something like that. They are currently living in this scenario where they're nothing. They're not equal citizens under Israeli law. They don't have their own state with autonomy. They're being ruled by gangs of militant warlords. And that's not part of the deal. That also kind of just concerns me for the future. Even if this ceasefire peace holds for now, without an actual resolution to the Palestinian problem, how do you guarantee that something like this doesn't, spring up again in 10 years from now? And there's another October 7th, or Israel, starts to punish the militants, and therefore, by extension, more innocent people in Gaza or the West Bank get killed, which inflames tensions, and then the whole thing blows over. 10 years from now, the United States has to get involved and spend money and back, the Israeli government, one side or the other. It will be interesting to see 10 years from now what the level of support is in America for Israel. I think that that's on its way down, particularly amongst young people. I think that's been covered well by everyone, that support amongst like millennials and people under 30 across the political spectrum in America. Support for Israel is way down. I don't know. It's hard to, here Scagz is going to, predict the future of the Israel-Palestine conflict. I really don't know. I just look at the deal as it currently stands, and I don't see any guarantee of statehood or sovereignty, equal rights for the Palestinians, and I foresee it as an issue going forward. Maybe it will get sorted out in the next couple months as more points along this peace plan develop. But as of right now, it's not part of the conversation. Maybe both sides need more time to cool down before they could get to that. I think we kind of have to wait and see in that regard. But I think anyone who's selling this as a permanent fix in the moment right now, that this is the end to all these problems in the Middle East, I think is blowing a lot of hot air up your ass. I until you see a resolution to that Palestinian question, there's always going to be a chance that this thing flares over and we have to get involved in it again, or that it pisses people off in the region again because of the American support for Israel, and you see further acts of terrorism or things like that. Go read Osama bin Laden's declaration of war against the United States after September 11th, right? It's cited as one of his key grievances as to why he did what he did. It doesn't make what he did right. Not a big fan of Osama bin Laden. He attacked the city that I lived in, killed people, from my city. Fucking hate him. Got what he deserved. It's worth reading what your enemy writes in his declaration of wars against you. So that's kind of my concern in general with what's going on. Now, to piggyback off of that, Trump was asked today, he was taking questions at the White House today. I don't know if you guys have seen past couple days since this has all come to fruition. I've seen videos. It's been reported that Hamas has been fighting with other militant groups in Gaza, executing collaborators. I don't know what to make of all that, right? But it doesn't seem like Hamas does have an intention of disarming and taking kind of the amnesty deal and leaving Gaza. So, now that being said, now again, things could change as the deal progresses. I think Hamas said that they're just acting as police in the vacuum, and I think that that's also kind of just naturally what happens anytime a power vacuum occurs, and like Israel pulling back, from their front line to a couple of miles back within Gaza creates a power vacuum, right? Men with guns at the end of the day, essentially, they kind of rule the world. So the men with the best guns pull back, creates a power vacuum. Now the other men within the zone that have guns are going to fight over who gets to dominate the area. Now, that being said, it looks kind of odd given that part of this deal was that Hamas would disarm. Part of it would be that Hamas would disarm and, either take amnesty, leave, and, essentially lay down their arms. So Trump was asked about this directly today. I thought he gave an interesting answer, which I wanted to play.
But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes, you say
because everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm or we will disarm them. Got it?
So there you have it. They will disarm or we will disarm them violently. I mean, that doesn't spell well for the prospects of this peace deal. What does that mean exactly? So we will disarm them? Does that mean that this international force that's supposed to be part of this deal is going to go in there and get involved in a sense and kill some of them or force them to disarm? I think that could get messy. Does that mean that Israel's going to go back in there, which then essentially means the ceasefire is over and the whole thing falls apart? I'm hoping that all that is some tough talk. That Trump has also seen some of these videos and is a sense like sending a public message, to the leaders of Hamas and to guys on the ground in Hamas that it is you better take this seriously to disarm and let's move this thing along. So maybe that's what this is. I don't know how likely that is, man. Again, you got to put yourself in the shoes of these other people. If you're a member of Hamas, if you've been in this ruling gang for all these years, it is very difficult to just give up that power that you might have wielded before, or to trust the other side is going to hold up their end of the deal and actually give you amnesty. I don't know if anybody's ever seen. There was like a show. I forgot what it was on, or maybe a movie, and I think Al Pacino was in it. But it was about like Jewish or Israeli Nazi hunters for all the years after World War II who like hunted down the remaining Nazis. I forget exactly what it was called. Interesting premise, and I believe based on real life events. For years after the Israelis and Jewish people around the world hunted down the Nazis that participated in the Holocaust. So I don't know. Maybe the Hamas guys are keeping that in mind. That like even if we do take this amnesty deal, I mean, I can never sleep without one eye open again. And is it worth it for me to like lay down my arms now at this point and just walk out of here? Might be better if I just keep my arms and at least I have an AK-47 in my hands when I sleep with one eye open. I'm just speculating. Doesn't make any of that right or wrong or just or unjust. I'm just kind of working through what might be going through some of these people's minds. But I do think in general, I'm feeling positive about this. I will take it having watched the insane level of death, violence, destruction in Gaza the past couple of years. I saw the videos, hated seeing some of them. Children buried in rubble, people blown up. And then I saw the videos of people celebrating the past couple of days. What does that tell you, right? I showed you the video before of the Israelis booing Netanyahu, and I was trying to make the point that, that shows you normal people didn't like how their government was, prosecuting the war. And the Palestinians in Gaza celebrating the other day shows me that, like, yeah, they're just happy that they don't have to live maybe with their apartment buildings falling down on their head every day. And yes, it's not perfect. Like I said before, they don't have a guaranteed state or, individual rights or anything like that at the moment. But man, it's better than what you had before, which was raining hellfire down on you at any moment. And I guess worth noting some of the best deals sometimes, or most of the time, we could debate the specifics of any deal. Some of the best deals are the ones where everybody doesn't get exactly what they want. So I'm optimistic, and I think it's at least a good thing that there is a break for these poor people that have been suffering to shit the past 2 years. Okay, so the last thing I think I'm going to play and talk about is some of the response, or at least a specific instance of the response to this by the people who I loathe the most, the corporate press types. And you might say that I've picked on Mark Levin too much on the Two Doom Men podcast. But I've explained it in the past before. Mark Levin has kind of been moved to your pole position guy at Fox News. He is there in prime time every night, talking about wars, advocating for more wars, advocating for endless support of Israel. and he is on the right wing, I guess you could say, right? Calls himself a constitutional Republican or whatever, a constitutional conservative, whatever it is. So he kind of embodies to me a lot of like the worst aspects of the corporate press, this phony portrayal of the right wing in a sense. So I saw this video of him earlier today and I tweeted about it, and I wanted to kind of give my comments here and play it as well.
The time is right with the Trump peace plan to use this historic achievement to go to the next level, to protect us, to protect the West. That is, challenge the root cause of the problem, Islamist terrorism. And to be clear, I believe the only leader who can do this, who is bold, courageous, strategic, and have a real shot at making it work, is President Trump. Our State Department keeps a long list of terrorist organizations and the countries they are operating within. Beyond that, we know where the major actors are based. You can go online and see on the internet. Many very good groups, research groups, think tanks, they've laid it all out. It's right there. Of course, they're not only in the Middle East, these terrorist organizations, but many are. And it's a good place to start, particularly since we have this outstanding foundation, this platform, the Trump peace deal. The president is singularly qualified and capable of extending his diplomatic, economic, and yes, military reach into these countries where he has built special relationships to begin the difficult and complex process of unraveling, starving, isolating, and eliminating these terror operations. Some of these countries will welcome such an initiative, as their monarchies or their military dictatorships fear for their own survival, because these terrorists seek to overthrow several of them. I'm thinking of countries like Jordan and Egypt, among others. Some will resist because they're harboring terrorists or have been funding terrorists or somehow promoting terrorists and have relationships and understanding with terrorists, such as Qatar, such as Saudi Arabia. Yes, name them.
Okay. Like I said before, Donald Trump, to his credit, just forged a very fragile peace in the Middle East amidst the most hot button issue that exists in the Middle East. And Mark Levin's reaction to this on his primetime show on Fox News that is going to be broadcast to a few million or viewed by a few million, boomer types in America, is that now's the time to do more war. Right after Donald Trump gets a peace deal, we're going to do more war now. We're going to go after these Islamic fundamentalist terrorists everywhere around the world. The war on terror, like we haven't been doing that at all since 2001. And we have to ramp up our pursuit of these people. And not only that, but we have to go into countries that we weren't in war or at war within previously, like Jordan and Saudi Arabia. This is fucking insane. This guy gets on TV every night. I remember watching him the night of the attack on the Iranian nuclear facility, and he was there in a sense just grinning ear from ear about how just overjoyed with emotion about how this was the best thing that had ever happened. This guy is on TV speaking to a large audience about how we have to do more war. Right at the moment where Donald Trump, forms this fragile peace in the Middle East, it's fucking crazy. It's hard to come up with the words that I feel about guys like this. It's something else. I think I'm going to probably just leave it on that. Be aware of what you're watching on the corporate news. This guy's also been retweeted by President Trump at times and supported by him. Again, I don't mean to just pick on him, but he's kind of a standard bearer, in my opinion. I'm sure you could go on like a Ben Shapiro type show and see him saying similar type stuff. You could go on Twitter and see all the people with the Israeli flag as a pro-Israel to the death Zionist accounts. They're all saying similar things. We got to go and pick more fights now after we just got a fragile peace. Will it ever be enough for some of these people? I guess not. And actually, now I remember another thing is he references like think tanks that just go to the think tanks. You know, they've written up studies on who to target and what to do and how to do it. Isn't that interesting, right? A lot's been made of the clean break memo, the Project for a New American Century guys. You know, the report that was given to Benjamin Netanyahu many years ago. You know, that his strategy for securing the realm, as it was called, would be to, pursue peace with the Arab neighbors by buying them off, by, normalizing relations with them, and in lieu of having to, solve the Palestinian problem and whatnot. And a lot of people have cited, a lot of critics of Israel have cited that. The 7 countries in 5 years memo by I'm blanking on his name, but a lot of people have cited that, and then a lot of people's criticism of those points has been, oh, they're just that's a conspiracy theory, or it's just one piece of paper, one policy. But then here you go, you have Mark Levin, a tried and true Israel supporter, neocon type, who is literally on television in prime time now saying, we have the policy papers written in think tanks, President Trump. Just go and read them and carry out the policy as prescribed by these think tanks. What else is there to say, folks? I don't know. Scott Horton would say, hang them by their own words. Show what these people say to everyone. And later when they come back at you aghast, no, you're putting words in my mouth. Well, there you go. All right. I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I managed to do this whole thing with only pausing once. And I think it came out pretty decently. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Did feel a little bit awkward just talking to myself, but yeah, I survived. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thank you for watching the Two Doom Men podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be back with more content coming up in the next week or two. Adios.